I can't drive. I haven't sat behind the wheel of a real car for about 6 years. And 6 years ago I had 33 driving lessons, followed by a nightmarish test in which I nearly had a head-on crash or a roundabout. Don't ask. Basically, when it comes to driving, I'm about as much use as a neighbourhood watch scheme run by Dennis News. I'm telling you this so that if at any time during this review you find me saying things like, the car's handled just like the real thing, you know I'm a lying little fib face. Okay, good. Alright then. Megadrive is a top-down view motor rallying game from US Gold, and it presents you with the opportunity to enter a World Rallying Championship, taking place in 8 different nations. There's a total of 48 courses, with a variety of terrains and climates, sand and sun in Kenya, ice and snow in Sweden, and so on. Furthermore, each of these courses falls into one of 3 categories. Time trials, which are very self-explanatory, Rally Cross, which is basically another time trial, only with a computer-controlled snot rag getting in your way all the time, and special stages in which you have to perform a series of different manoeuvres, such as zigzagging through a load of red cones without knocking any over, also against the clock. As you'd expect, the courses get increasingly harder as you near the end of the championships, until you find yourself doing a Mark Bolan every 3 seconds on the British Forest Trails. When you start the game, you're given some cash to spend. You ought to buy yourself a car, obviously, and entering each course costs you money as well. You'll also have to shell out for any damage you incur during a race, and if you haven't got enough, you just have to put up with driving your knackered old jalopy around until you can scrape together enough prize money to pay for the repairs. Which is a bit of a downer if you just smashed your headlights into a zillion bits right before undertaking a night. You end up having to use the force to find your way around the tracks, as perilous corners loom towards you in the inky darkness. The controls are fairly simple. There's no manual gear option, although you do have to toggle between forward and reverse gears yourself. I'd have preferred the hold down the brake button method for reversing. But on the whole, they lend themselves perfectly to a PC gamepad, which is not surprising when you realise that Megadrive is also being released in SNES and Megadrive formats. And therein lies the problem. Megadrive is a bit of an anomaly. It strives to convey a sense of realism, with the rendered car graphics, the repairs, the different terrains, and the realistic, or so I'm told, manner in which the cars handle corners. But then it goes and bungs a load of turbo power-ups onto the track, throwing, nay hurling, all aspirations of realism straight out the nearest window and into the skip on the pavement outside with void concept disposal units spray-painted up its side in 3-foot-high Helvetica. For a Megadrive game, it's fairly realistic. For a PC game, it's unusually arcadey. However, that's more of a curiosity than a drawback, really. There's nothing wrong with an odd blend of realism and video game lore, as long as it's fun to play, say I. But the big problem, the one that killed Megadrive stone dead as far as I was concerned, the one that pulled out a crossbow and shot it right in the forehead with a shiny steel bolt, the one that pulled off a special finishing move, ripping its opponent's arms off and beating them about the face and neck with them, was the lack of a simultaneous 2-player mode. It's just not enough fun on your own. Most of the time, yours is the only car on the track, racing against the clock, and when you do have some direct opposition, it's only a solitary CPU driver who seems to have graduated from the James Dean School of Motoring, and demonstrates his prowess by repeatedly slamming into the sides like a total arsewit. There is a multiplayer mode of sorts, in which up to 8 would-be rally drivers can hold their own championship, but it's a case of waiting your turn, unfortunately. Seriously, Megadrive's excitement factor drops by about 90% as soon as you realise there's no 2-player option. Completely off the top of our head, here's a few suggestions on how you can make the game more exciting. Drink 4 bottles of wine before you begin, thereby turning it into a drink driving simulator. You could pretend the computer is your bestest mate and shout light-hearted abuse at it every time its car overtakes yours, just as you would if it was being controlled by a real person. Or you could add an element of hard-edged danger by holding a loaded revolver to your temple while you play, making an inward vow that you will pull the trigger should you fail to beat the clock. And it does have one other saving grace, it's night stages. Not because they're more fun than the daytime ones, I've just always liked night stages in any kind of game. I had spent an entire school holiday playing Spy Hunter on a ZX Spectrum, because someone had told me that eventually you get to a night stage. He didn't. And I kept Stunt Island on my hard drive for ages, just so I could fly the pterodactyl inside the baseball stadium at night. Night stages, I love them. But that's me, the saddest man in Britain. Ultimately though, as a one-player title, there just isn't enough game for me with Power Drive. I'm sorry, okay? The graphics are fine, the sound's decent enough, the presentation's alright, the nighttime stages look cool, but that's about it. Nothing special. You drive round and round ad nauseam with the occasional driving test interlude. If you drive round and round well enough, you might win enough to buy a slightly faster car so you can drive around and around a bit faster. The addition of a split-screen two-player mode would have ensured thrills and spills aplenty, not to mention at least an extra 30 points on the score I've given it. As it stands, you'll be stifling a yawn after about an hour of play. If you want a great top-down racing game that will give you a decent one-player mode with a brilliant two-player mode chucked in as well, buy Micro Machines. If you want to drive around a track on your own 48 times in a row, buy this. 50%. And that's 30 whole points off for no two-player mode. Sod off Power Drive.